Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Saul. I'm here to do another read aloud with you today. And the one that I chose for today, it's another nonfiction, but it's a little bit tricky. When you first look at this book, you might not think it's nonfiction. So I'm going to show it to you. This book is called The Slug, Disgusting Critters. And here he is. It says, yo. And this was written by Elise Gravel. So when you first look at this book, it doesn't really look like, if you picked this up from our library, you might not think this was a nonfiction book, because this is not what a slug really looks like. And he's talking. Slugs don't really talk. So I wanted to talk to you today and focus on how sometimes as readers, we have to be careful, because sometimes we can get tricked into thinking something is fiction when maybe it's nonfiction. Or maybe the book is a little bit of both. So we're going to kind of be detectives together today and pay attention as we read to see what parts of this book are fiction, fake, and which ones are nonfiction and teaching us something real about slugs. Okay, so let's take a look at The Slug. The Slug. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce The Slug. Hello. Now, so far, this seems like it's fiction. The slug is a mollusk, like the snail, but it doesn't have a shell. Oh, boys and girls, Mrs. Saul forgot again today. I should think about what I know about slugs already. Well, I just learned this, even though I did kind of know this already. Slugs do not have shells like a snail. They kind of are just a slimy, squishy body, kind of like a fat-looking worm. That's what I know about them. I also know, because I used to help my grandmother in the garden, in her garden, and I know that this is not very nice, but slugs like to eat plants in your garden. And if you want to get rid of them, one way to do it is to put little caps of water with salt water. She would use like a bottle cap, and she would put salt water in it and put them around her garden. And if the slug crawls through the salt, it actually kills them, which is not very nice. But they were eating her plants, so that's how she took care of it. I also know that slugs are slimy, that they leave a trail behind them, so you can kind of see where they've been moving. And that's really all I know so far about slugs. This page just taught me that they're mollusks, like a snail. So that's new learning for me. So they are like a snail, but without a shell. And this guy's saying, ha ha, you're naked. Again, this part, fake, like fiction, but it just taught us something. It told us what kind of animal or what animal family a snail belongs to. There are many species of slugs. Sea slugs. Now, sea slugs don't really go in a boat and wear a captain's hat and say, ahoy there. But there is such a thing as a sea slug. Freshwater slugs, that means slugs that live in water that is not salt water, ocean water. Rub-a-dub-dub, one slug in a tub. There are also land slugs. That's the kind of slug I think I know more about. And he said, abandoned ship, because he's leaving his ship to go ashore. He lives on the land. Land slugs are the ones we'll talk about in this book. Oh, good, because Mrs. Saul knows some stuff about them. So again, fact and fiction on these pages here. Some silly stuff like the pictures and what they were saying, but we did learn about 3 different kinds of slugs. The slug has 2 pairs of tentacles on its head. Ooh, look at that. The upper ones are eyes, and the lower ones are for smelling and tasting. I see you. You're a kid and you smell like broccoli. So again, something silly here. This is fiction. A slug wouldn't really say that to us, but we learned that they have two sets of tentacles. These that have the eyes, the upper ones, and then lower ones that smell and taste for them. I didn't know that. Its tentacles are retractable, which means that the slug can pull them inside its head when it senses danger. And he's saying, it's not easy if you wear glasses. Yes, because if you're wearing glasses on your eyes and then you pull them inside your head, now your glasses fall off. Again, silly fiction, but we learned something that was nonfiction. Can you turn and tell someone next to you, what did you learn that was true about slugs on this page? That was fact. I'm going to give you a minute to tell somebody what you learned. Well, I hope that you told somebody that what you learned was that if a slug senses danger, it can pull its tentacles in or retract its tentacles. Mr. Saul is playing with the alarm right now in my video. That's what you just heard. Sorry. The slug breathes through a hole on the side of its body. Ooh. We've been hearing about how different animals breathe. We learned that a shark breathes through gills and a dolphin breathes through a hole on the top of its head. And now we've learned that a slug breathes through a hole on the side of its body. Everyone's impressed when I do that. I'm not sure what he's talking about here, so I have to look closely at this picture. Well, he's got a big pink thing coming out of the side of his head. Oh, look at that. It says gum. He's chewing a piece of gum and blowing a bubble. That's what that pink thing is. Because it says he breathes out of the side of his head, so I guess that's where he'd blow a bubble from. Again, fact and some fiction on this page too. We learned that a slug breathes through a hole. That's real. A slug chewing bubble gum? Not real. The slug moves by contracting the muscles on its belly. Its belly is called a foot. So here he is. How do you like my new dress? He's wearing a sock. I think it's because his body or his belly is called a foot, and usually we wear a sock on our foot. That's kind of silly. Again, fake. A slug would not be walking around in a sock. And fact, their belly is called a foot. And when it said that it contracts its muscles, that means that it squeezes, tightens, and loosens its muscles to help it move. That's how it moves along. So if you ever see it moving, it kind of and squishes up and then lets loose to move. The slug's whole body is covered in mucus. Ugh, that's a yucky word. A thick and slimy liquid, kind of like snot in your nose. It has to stay in humid areas. Humid means moist, where there's some moisture in the air, not in a place that's dry like a desert. Such as under stones or flower pots, so it doesn't dry out. That makes sense. It's covered in this wet, slimy liquid, and so it has to stay somewhere where it's kind of, there's some moisture, like under a rock. I know when I've picked up rocks before outside, the dirt underneath a rock looks like it's a little bit wet oftentimes. Or inside of a flower pot, which makes sense too, because people who have flowers usually water them, which is the same reason they like going in people's gardens. And here he is saying, what a gorgeous day. Oh, he's hanging out in the rain. It's raining. I guess slugs probably like rain. The mucus is very important because it helps the slug move by creating a slick surface. It also acts like glue to help the slug climb up things like trees and walls. Oh, that's interesting. So I knew that they left that slimy trail. I talked about that before. But I didn't really realize why. So that makes some sense. It helps them move smoothly, and it also helps them stick to things so they can climb up the side of a wall. And look what he's saying to this baby who's got a runny, drippy nose. Wow, what a huge slug. He thinks he's a slug because he's so, you see. When it senses danger, the slug produces extra mucus so it becomes more slippery and can more easily escape its predators. We talked about that word in our other book this week. So predators, we know, are animals or that hunt other animals. So a predator is an animal that would want to eat the slug or hurt the slug. So when it's in danger, it can produce even more mucus to make it extra slimy. So if you tried to grab it, it would slip right out of your hands. Ha ha, I can fly. It's me, Super Slug. And here he is, squish, right out of the hand. To find a partner and have babies, the slug follows another slug's mucus trail. So that's how it finds a mate. It finds another slug's trail of slime and follows it. And he's saying, "Wait for me, my love." That's not real. But the fact that they leave a slimy trail and that's how they find a mate, that's real. That's a fact. Just like the earthworm, the slug is male and female at the same time. The slug lays its eggs in a hole in the ground or under a rock or piece of rotten wood. Baby slugs, tiny and transparent, will hatch in a few weeks. So they lay their eggs in a hole under the ground or under a rock or a piece of wood. I'm sure that's probably to protect them so that nothing eats them or they don't get stepped on accidentally. So, and when they are the little eggs, they are tiny and transparent and they hatch in a few weeks. And they're saying, "Congratulations, it's a boy girl." That's interesting. There are some animals that can be both genders, male and female. The slug eats plants and mushrooms. Farmers and gardeners don't like slugs because they eat their lettuce. Yep, that was like my grandma. She did not like slugs. But slugs play an important role in the environment. That means if you play an important role, that means that they have an important job to do. So even though you might not like them eating your lettuce, they do have a purpose and they are good for your garden. So let's find out why. They help to break down old and decaying plant and animal matter and turn it back into important nutrients for the soil. Well, that sounds pretty important. Abracadabra, nature's trash, transform. He's a magician. So next time you meet a slug, be nice. Share some of your salad with it. Delicious. Do you have any bubble gum for dessert? And that's the end. So hopefully you learned some facts in here about slugs and you were able to see how this book was a little bit of both, a little fact and a little fiction. And next time that you're reading a book, just make sure you're being careful and thinking about, am I learning facts here of real life, true information about something, or is this all just, pretend and fake? So I hope you enjoyed our book today, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow on our Zoom call, our meeting, and I hope that you all are there. We are going to probably do some sort of activity during our call, so I will send a message to your parents letting you know what we're going to do. But until then, I miss you, I love you, and I'll see you later.